Hello, it's Amy. I'm here once again with the Journal of Emily Shore. This is the 1830s diary of a teenage girl growing up in the United Kingdom. It was published in 1891, and we have reached page 135, chapter 8, beginning the year 1836, when Emily Shore was 17 years old. So here we are. She's going to spend the year of 1836 in Woodbury, London, Hastings, Tunbridge Wells, and Woodbury once again. And her first entry for the year 1836 was January 8th, which was a Friday. So she writes here, Papa continually takes opportunities in common conversation to give us information on many subjects, which we are not likely to find explained in books. Today, some questions which I asked at tea occasioned him to give us an account of copyhold and freehold estates, and the qualifications of individuals for voting for members of Parliament as they now stand. By one of these, Papa has a vote for the county. Papa also said that the alterations produced by the late parliamentary and municipal reforms are greater than any other within his recollection, and are therefore to be especially remembered. He explained to us the principal changes made thereby. January 9, Saturday. Papa finished as much of the article Boroughs as he has come out in the last monthly numbers, or rather, as has come out in the last monthly numbers of the Penny Cyclopedia. It unluckily concludes in the middle of the word resolution, in a very interesting part. It will be a long time before we shall have the rest of it, but I have learnt a great deal from what has already been read. That's quite odd that this publication, the Penny Cyclopedia, would literally end apparently in the middle of a word. But I guess, with a cheaper publication, they might do that. January 27, Wednesday. A most beautiful day. All the birds were in motion. The coal tit sang a little. The burning lark and robin were in full song. The tits were all abroad, coursing each other, hunting for insects under the branches, and hopping about in the dead leaves at the roots of nut trees, all the while uttering their innumerable chirps. The ox-eyes were particularly busy. They were noisy and boisterous birds, and comparatively clumsy in their movements. They are, however, lively and very handsome, but I do not like them as well as the blue and coal tits. The blue tit has the brightest colors of them all. His shape and movements are elegant, and his cries in general are not harsh like those of the ox-eye. The coal tit has a much more innocent and good-tempered look than his congeners. The ox-eye indeed has quite a fierce, malignant face, and above all, he has so much more music in his voice. His chirps are all much sweeter, lower, and less jabbering, and he has a regular song which possesses at least great cheerfulness and a clear, merry tone. And we're reading this. She's 17 now, and she's still making very similar observations on birds that she was making in the earlier chapters, when she was 12, 13 years old. And I think it's interesting to me that her interest in birds has essentially stayed consistent over her teenage years here. The entry for February 4th, which was a Thursday. Amongst other amusements of my leisure hours, I am very fond of inventing plans of palaces and dwelling houses on a large scale. These I first draw out in pencil on paper, and afterwards write minute descriptions of them with the measurements, furniture uses, etc. of all the apartments. One on which I am now employed is a magnificent stone palace built round a court 800 feet square. February 11th, Thursday. Towards the end of dinner, the conversation turned, I forget how, upon executioners and the different modes of execution in Europe. It appears that the punishment of death is inflicted at Vienna by beheading with the sword, in Naples by hanging, at Venice, formerly at least by drowning, in France still by the guillotine. In Tuscany, there are now no capital punishments. The office of executioner is everywhere held odious. Nobody will associate with one. In some parts of Germany, all the dead fowls are the prerequisite of the executioner, and are left to him to come and take them, and indeed executioners are sometimes suspected of poisoning them to get the bodies. Executioners must be very accomplished artists, for great skill is required in the performance of their task. Mr. W. Spencer, and we have a note here, the once well-known Honorable W.R. Spencer, without exception, says Lockhart, the most charming of companions. Mr. W. Spencer told Papa that once, when abroad in a provincial town of France, he met a very pleasing and gentlemanly man, and conversed with him a good deal. Happening again to meet him at a table d'hôte, he was surprised to find that the stranger fought shy of him, and rebuffed him when he attempted to speak to him. Soon as they were alone together, "You do not perhaps know, sir," said the unknown, "that by speaking to me in public you are endangering your character. I have lost caste. I am, in fact, infamous. Nobody associates with me. I am one of the most celebrated executioners in Europe, and if you were to be seen talking to me by anyone who knew me, you would totally lose your reputation." February 26, Friday. Elise professes her intention of retrieving her lost character as a correspondent, forgetting that it is in no one's power to lose that which he has never possessed. And she drops a hope that Mamma will not allow us to pull her quite in pieces for her delinquencies. This hope has unfortunately reached just a little too late, for 3 or 4 days ago the children completely dissected her. I'm not sure I understand what's happening in that passage, but we'll move on to March 7th, which was a Monday. I have been confined to the house and partly to my bed by a cough, a thing which I have not for many years had except before my last fever, so that unless I get out very soon, I am afraid that I shall miss the first singing birds of passage. I see from the windows that several crocuses are in blow. I am likely to miss the violets and the primroses also. April 14, Thursday. This is Papa's 43rd birthday. I gave him a chronological history of Naples and Sicily from the time of William of Hauteville to the present day. It has employed me several days in writing, and has been very useful to me in brushing up my knowledge of the history of this kingdom. Mr. Parasin has very kindly made Papa a present of a barometer of his own making. It is not particularly handsome, but extremely neat, and I should think a very accurate one. It is made of mahogany. Mr. P. put it together here, which occupied him about an hour. I find that the plates on which the signs of a barometer are written, and the dial plates of clocks, are both made of plates of brass, covered with a silvery wash. Papa intends me to register the height of the barometer and thermometer, which are put up side by side in our hall, regularly twice a day, at 8 in the morning and 8 at night. This will, I hope, teach us to be weather-wise. April 19, Tuesday. While we were at prayers this morning, and Papa was reaching out of the Bible, a chaffinch came and alighted on the ledge of the open window, and while sitting there, sung his loud song 4 times over, being answered between each repetition by another at a distance. He almost drowned Papa's voice. April 30th, Saturday. I now conclude the 5th volume of my journal, which I have kept for 6 years, including a short diary during the year 1830. I find it such a useful practice and so entertaining that I am fully resolved to continue it all my life. It was first suggested to me by the possession of a small pocket notebook, given me by a pupil when I was 10 years old. I have ordered a 6th volume to be made by Fraser at Potton, and I shall have it on Monday, when I shall forthwith begin it. I have been long convinced that, as Abbott says in his Young Christians, the use of the pen is amongst the most valuable means of improving the mind. May 10th, Tuesday. I have been so unwell for many days with cold and rheumatism that I am obliged strictly to keep the house and partly my bed, so that I am quite unable to observe the birds, except a little from within the house. The weather is becoming very fine and warmer, though the winds are cold. I hope I shall be able next Sunday to see the eclipse. May 20, Friday. This is the 11th day of uninterrupted hot summer-like days, and perhaps it is the last, for the barometer falls fearfully and the sky is stormy. The weather has during this period been really exquisite, and I have been unable to enjoy it owing to my fever, which continues in all its force. But even from within the house I can hear the excellent warbling of the birds, and I can see the rapid progress of vegetation, which now renders the view from the west windows quite enchanting. Nothing can equal the delightful beauty of the first tender green of spring. And I think we'll leave it, no, let's do one more. We'll finish off May. We'll finish off our last entry for May. May 24th, which is a Tuesday. The weather is now again excessively cold. We have fires all day, and I crouch over them. Yet we are on the verge of June. The lilies of the valley are in bloom, and the gardens and meadows are golden with buttercups. The weeping ash is beginning to be leafy, and the walnuts are covered with brown-green foliage. What I principally admire is the great beauty of white and pink lilacs, now in full bloom in the laurel edge. The cow pasture, too, looks very beautiful from the west windows, all covered as it is with golden furze and broom. And so her illness has begun, and I'm assuming this is the illness that is going to so weaken her body and immune system that it eventually takes her life. As we know from the introduction, is the inevitable conclusion of her journal and her life here. And I too love the lilacs in the spring. White and pink, though. I'm not sure I've ever seen a pink lilac. I'm familiar with the white and the deep purple and the light purple ones here, but pink, I don't think we have the pink ones here. But I'll be back soon with the entries for June of 1836.